Welcome to Air Superiority, the program that brings you the most breathtaking stories of military dominance. Imagine a tiny island in the heart of the Persian Gulf where tensions between superpowers could explode, and that is exactly what happened. We are talking about the Isla de Greater Tumb in the middle of the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's hottest flashpoints. It is January 10th, 2026 at 2:43 p.m. in the afternoon under a merciless sun that turns everything into a glowing inferno. Here on this rock, 15 elite U.S. Marines guarded a top-secret underground intelligence facility that monitored every Iranian military move in the Gulf. A facility that Tehran knew nothing about until that fateful day. But when they found out, a storm of revenge and hatred unleashed that held the world's breaths. Dear listeners, let us dive into this epic confrontation that raised the enmity between the USA and Iran to a new bloody level. Suddenly, 24 fast boats of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard surrounded the island like hungry wolves surrounding their prey. On board 300 elite commandos heavily armed with artillery ships and rocket-equipped boats. Their orders directly from Tehran storm, the island capture the Americans and destroy everything. Iran's hatred for the imperialist intruders boiled like lava. They saw these 15 Marines as easy prey, isolated and helpless against overwhelming odds. A simple calculation, 15 against 300, a certain crushing victory for the mullahs in Tehran. But oh, how they were mistaken. These failures would cost them dearly and send shockwaves across the world. For Iran's strategists committed 4 catastrophic mistakes that revealed their arrogance and blind hatred. First, these 15 Marines were no ordinary soldiers, but Force Recon Marines, the deadliest warriors the U.S. Marine Corps has ever produced. Each of them a master of combat, trained in advanced hand-to-hand combat, covert operations, and survival under the most extreme conditions. Second, the facility was no mere hut, but a highly armed fortress with defensive systems that Iran could not imagine in its wildest nightmares: hidden machine gun nests, remote-controlled weapons, and minefields that would tear any attacker to pieces. Third, only 35 kilometers away lurked the USS Bataan, a gigantic carrier ship with 800 fresh Marines on board ready to strike like a hammer on an anvil. Fourth, the underground base had a direct satellite link to U.S. Central Command, which immediately authorized a total merciless response. What happened in the following 41 minutes was the most intense Marine defense since the Battle of Fallujah and Iran's most devastating military defeat in decades, an embarrassment that doused Tehran in shame and disgrace. Here at Air Superiority, we reveal this story to you in all its bloody detail to show how hatred and overconfidence lead to catastrophic failure. The Isla de Greater Tumb, 18 square kilometers of barren rock strategically placed in the bottleneck of Hormuz, which Iran claims as its sovereign territory. Tehran has stationed troops there, hoisted flags, and declared it a bulwark against the West. But what Iran did not know, for 6 months, the USA had been operating a clandestine intelligence facility under the Eastern Cliffs, a bunker-like underground complex massively fortified and invisible to prying eyes. This bunker monitored everything: Iranian naval communications missile movements, every military transmission in the Gulf in real time, every operation, every ship, every missile launch, every naval maneuver. Nothing escaped the watchful sensors. The facility was crucial to U.S. strategy, a thorn in Iran's side that only further fueled the hatred of the Ayatollahs. It was guarded by exactly these 15 Force Recon Marines, elite operators, not simple infantrymen, but specialists forged into killing machines through years of hard training. Each of them mastered advanced combat tactics, intelligence operations, and survival skills. Their mission: maintain security, defend the facility. In case of discovery, resist to the last until reinforcements arrived. On January 10th, 2026, at 1:30 p.m., the nightmare began. Iranian intelligence intercepted unusual signals encrypted U.S. military frequencies from Greater Tumb. Tehran panicked Americans on Iranian soil. Unthinkable. A provocation that caused the ancient hatred for the Great Satan, USA, to explode. Direct orders from Ayatollah Khamenei to the Revolutionary Guard's Naval Command. Find the intruders, capture them, destroy their base. The order was drenched in fanaticism and thirst for revenge. Iran wanted to make an example to show the world that no one enters their territory with impunity. At 2:05 p.m., 24 fast boats of the Revolutionary Guard launched from Bandar Abbas an armada of hatred. On board 300 commandos, Iran's best troops supplemented by 2 artillery boats and 4 rocket-equipped ships. This was no simple raid. It was a full assault operation planned with the intention of humiliating and destroying the Americans. As we always say at Air Superiority, if you attack Marines, you'd better bring a whole army, and even then it might not be enough. At 2:38 p.m., the 15 Marines detected the approaching boats on their radar. Sergeant Jake Morrison, the team commander, acted lightning fast. Everyone to combat readiness. 24 enemy boats approaching over 300 troops. This is not a drill. Activate all defensive systems. Report to Fleet Command. We are under attack. The Marines were prepared like never before. The facility was a true fortress hidden. 50 caliber machine guns in the cliffs, remote-controlled weapon systems, minefields with claymore mines, reinforced fighting positions, and an ace up the sleeve, 6 Javelin missile launchers, anti-tank capable but deadly against boats. At 2:38 p.m., the Marines sent an emergency transmission to the USS Baton. Under imminent attack, 24 enemy boats, 300 troops, requesting immediate support. We are holding position. The response came promptly. Marines on the way, 20 minutes. Air support launching now. Hold on. 20 minutes against 300 fanatical Iranian commandos at air superiority. We know that 20 minutes in battle can be an eternity filled with blood, sweat, and the deafening crash of weapons. At 2:43 p.m., the Iranian boats reached firing range only 1,000 meters from the coast. The Iranian commander radioed openly in English to demoralize the Marines. American forces on Iranian soil, surrender immediately or we will destroy you. The hatred in his voice was palpable. Tehran did not just want to win, but to humiliate the USA. Sergeant Morrison's response roared back. This is the U.S. Marine Corps. We do not surrender. We do not back down. Come and get us. And so the inferno was unleashed. At 2:44 p.m., the Iranians opened fire. Machine guns rattled RPGs, howled through the air. Artillery shells from the support ships crashed into the cliffs. The Marines countered with brutal force. Their 50 caliber MGs shredded the fiberglass boats like paper. Javelin missiles launched their explosive heads designed for tanks, tore the thin hulls apart like a divine lightning bolt. The first Iranian launch disintegrated in a cloud of fire. The second exploded with a deafening bang. The third went up in flames. Cries of the dying echoed over the water. Blood mixed with the salt of the Gulf. Yet 21 boats raced on, spewing death and destruction. At 2:51 p.m., the Iranian forces reached the 1st Marine position. Pure close-quarters combat grenades exploded. Rifles barked. Bayonets stabbed. The Marines fought with wild animal intensity, every shot precise, every hit deadly. Every Marine was worth 10 regular soldiers, professionals through and through, yet the numbers were merciless. 300 against 15, a desperate struggle against superior force. At 2:54 p.m., Sergeant Morrison radioed the Bataan. We are fighting heavy casualties for the enemy, but they keep pouring in. Holding for 15 minutes maybe, hurry up. The answer, air support inbound, extraction on the way, hold out Marines. And then at 2:56 p.m., 4 F-35B. Lightning stealth jets thundered over the island at 970 km/h, invisible messengers of death. The pilots saw the chaos. Iranian boats everywhere, troops on the beach, Marines in a desperate defense. weapon-free, engage all enemy vessels. 8 laser-guided GBU-12 paveway bombs fell each with 230 calories of explosive power. Precise hits. 8 boats exploded in gigantic fireballs within 10 seconds. Debris rained down. Bodies floated in the water. Then the F-35s returned their 25mm cannons, spewing fire in strafing runs over the Iranian troops on the beach, shredding, destroying. As we always emphasize at air superiority, air power changes everything. It turns the tables and makes the hunters the hunted. But the horror escalated further. At 2:58 p.m., 8 AH-1Z Viper attack helicopters arrived armed to the teeth. Hellfire missiles, AGM-114, hunted the Iranian artillery boats, precise kills. Ships exploded in chain reactions. Then Hydra rockets, 76 per heli. 70mm caliber anti-personnel, they rained down like a storm of steel, shredding Iranian positions on the beach where screams and explosions filled the air. The Iranian attack collapsed under this overwhelming air superiority, yet Tehran did not give up. Their hatred was too deep. At 3:01 p.m., 12 more Iranian boats appeared, reinforcements from the mainland with 200 fresh troops. Iran doubled down, risking everything in an act of blind rage. But the USA countered mercilessly. At 3:03 p.m., 16 MV-22 Osprey tiltrotor aircraft raced in, each loaded with 24 Marines, 384 fighters in total. Not an evacuation, but reinforcements. The Ospreys landed behind Iranian lines, flanking, cutting off the escape. Marines stormed out, set up perimeters. M240, MGs rattled. M250 calibers spewed, lead mortars thundered. The Iranians were now encircled. Marines defending in front, 384 fresh forces attacking from behind, helicopters above, F-35s circling. What do you think, dear listeners? Would you endure in such a situation against odds of 20-1, or would you capitulate? Share your thoughts with us. Call in or write in the comments. Because at Air Superiority, we want to hear your opinions as we dive deeper into this bloody conflict. At 3:06 p.m., the real hammer fell. The USS Bataan was more than just a carrier. It had naval artillery. The 25mm Bushmaster cannons of the escort destroyers opened fire, precise naval gunnery on the remaining Iranian boats in the water. Shells crashed in boats, exploded, sank, burned fiercely. The water boiled with debris and corpses. At 3:09 p.m., the Iranian reinforcement boats tried to flee, turning toward the Iranian coast. Too late, F-35s attacked with air-to-ground missiles, destroyers fired, Harpoon anti-ship missiles, boats disappeared in monstrous explosions. The Gulf turned red with the blood of the fallen. On the island, the Iranian troops realized their hopeless situation, surrounded, isolated, without escape, without reinforcements, without air cover. At 3:12 p.m., with half their forces dead or wounded, boats destroyed, Marines everywhere. The Iranian commander radioed, "All Iranian forces cease fire. We surrender. Repeat, we surrender to U.S. forces." Out. At 3:14 p.m., the Iranians laid down their weapons, hands up, capitulating. Of 300 attacking commandos, 180 dead or wounded, 120 prisoners. The 15 Marines had held for 31 minutes against impossible odds, a heroism that goes down in the annals. The 384 reinforcement Marines crushed the remains. At 3:24 p.m., exactly 41 minutes after the attack began, the Battle of Greater Tumb ended. No Marine dead, only 12 wounded. The facility intact, all intelligence data saved. 120 Iranian prisoners, 18 boats destroyed, over 200 Iranian casualties. A total US victory that kicked Iran's arrogance into the dust. At Air Superiority, we analyze such operations because they demonstrate perfect military doctrine and reveal how hatred leads to self-destruction. Within hours, Iran tried to control the narrative. State media denounced the successful repulsion of a US infiltration. Enemy forces fled with heavy losses. But satellite images and US drone footage told the truth. 18 destroyed boats, 120 prisoners in US custody, 200 bodies. The Pentagon released selective footage, exploding boats surrendering troops, triumphant Marines. The global reaction was devastating for Tehran. Iran's attack on US Marines ends in catastrophe. 120 Revolutionary Guards captured after failed storm. Tehran's humiliation, 200 dead in attack on 15 Marines. The 15 hero Marines each received a Silver Star Sergeant Morrison the Navy Cross. The 384 reinforcement Marines were praised for their flawless execution. The 120 prisoners interrogated in U.S. custody revealed shocking details. They had been told the island had only a few U.S. spies who would surrender easily. Instead, they encountered Force Recon Marines in a fortress with air support and 384 brothers on the way. A lesson in underestimating the enemy. Strategically, the impact was massive. Iran had claimed islands in the Gulf for years with threats against the U.S. presence. They bragged about the invincibility of their guard. Greater Tumb destroyed this myth. Iran sent 300 commandos, 24 boats artillery result, 200 dead, 120 prisoners, 0 objectives achieved. The facility continues to operate, continues to monitor, remains hidden. Iran's neighbors watched closely. If the Guard cannot defeat 15 Marines, they can defeat nothing. The UAE deepened intelligence cooperation with the USA. Saudi Arabia requested naval training. Bahrain expanded base access. As we say at Air Superiority, tactical victories shape strategic changes. But the biggest blow hit Tehran itself. The Guard commander who ordered the attack was arrested. The naval captain who led it was executed for catastrophic failure, internal purges driven by shame and revenge. Iran learned what US commanders have known for decades. Don't attack Marines even with 21 superiority, they will kill you. And if you seriously threaten them, hundreds come in minutes. What did Greater Tumb teach both sides? For Iran, US intelligence operations are everywhere, hidden, fortified, defended by elites you cannot defeat. These 15 Marines were not superior in numbers, but in training. Each worth 10 regular troops, panic-free, refusing to surrender, infallible. They hold fight-kill until reinforcements come. And they always come. For the USA, forward-deployed Marines work. Force Recon holds against the impossible. Air power is decisive. But deeper, the facility was secret because it had to be monitoring Iranian forces from claimed territory. Legally questionable, strategically vital. Iran discovered it, attacked, lost catastrophically. But what about the next facility, the next covert op, the next secret base? Now Iran knows the USA operates everywhere, even on Iranian islands. To find them means facing Marines pure psychological warfare. At Air Superiority, we understand fear is more effective than any missile. Iran officially controls the island patrols, it claims it. But now they know under the surface in the cliffs Americans could be lurking, and if Iran reaches out again, is 300 more Marines in 20 minutes. That is deterrence on January 10th, 2026. 2:43 p.m. Iran attacks 15 Marines with 300 troops. 3:24 p.m. 41 minutes later. 200 Iranian dead, 120 prisoners, victorious Marines. The facility continues to monitor. Marines watch intelligence flows. Iran learned you do not conquer what Marines defend. 15 held the line, 384 finished the work. That is the Hormuz bottleneck. That is Greater Tumb. That is what happens when you attack Marines. 300 Iranian commandos versus 400 US Marines. 41 minutes. Total US victory. Never attack Marines. What do you think of that, dear listeners? Would you as an Iranian give up after such a humiliation or swear revenge? Or as a US Marine, would you be proud of your brothers? Share your thoughts. Subscribe to Air Superiority for more breathtaking stories of military dominance that changed history. Because here we analyze how air power and elite forces define the modern battlefield. Stay tuned, the next conflict could be closer than you think.